Hi, everyone. I hope everyone has been okay and that you have had a good week so far. It's been, one of those for me. Series of Mondays. I never felt any break this week. I never felt myself moving from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday. It's been like Monday. It's been one of those weeks. Work is hectic, and obviously, this side of my life is also hectic. Couple of speaking arrangements that I'm part of, which requires my full attention, and parenting, which is a full-time job, and which I can take a break from. So yeah, tonight we gathered here to talk about parenting. I'm going to be talking about parenting from a single mother's perspective and from being parented, as a child, my experiences as a child. And I will be joined by a good friend of mine, colleague, partner in coaching, who is Darius. Darius is um, a psychotherapist, a counselor. He's a mental health expert. So he'll be balancing my experiential view with his professional view, if I were to put it like that. So welcome, everyone. I do hope that your week has been better than mine so far. Welcome to this session. I'll be adding Darius to this broadcast now and let him greet you guys, and then we can take it from there. Welcome, Dee. You can greet the viewers. It feels good to say that.
Thank you so much. Good evening, our dear friends, and I hope you're so far having a wonderful week. I think I am having a wonderful week, and
Good for you.
hopefully we're gonna have a very good time together.
I hope so too. Okay, so one of the things that we are going to address this evening is the question of how to make children feel loved. Another thing, or how to make them feel loved, how to make them feel seen, and valued. And another one is how to deal with tantrums. Like how do we when how do we calm them down when they get to that point where they're throwing tantrums? And why is it that as parents we always fail, to reach out to them at that point when they're just throwing things around, they're just so angry and we can't reach out to them? What is it that we can do better in that? I know parents of toddlers will relate to this, and if we have time, we will also talk about balancing being a gentle parent with discipline. How do we get to a point where we are gentle enough for us to listen to our children, but also we can draw the line, like we can discipline them. Okay, so those are the three things that we'll try and cover tonight. Obviously, that will depend on the time. We also appreciate your comments, your questions, whatever that you will want us to tackle and all that in this conversation. Obviously, this is going to be a very informal conversation, but yeah, drop your comments, let us hear you out, drop your questions. All right, okay, let me start with a bit of background on my side. Those who have read my book Beyond Broken will recall how I relate in the book my childhood, how I grew up, how I was raised. One of the things, okay, I'm going to quote myself now. I can't because I'm an author. I'm going to quote myself right now. In chapter 1 of the book, okay, obviously I introduce my parents and all of that. But one of the lines that are written there is that each home should be a place of healing, acceptance, and comfort. And these values should not be temporary. Like all homes should permanently be places of healing, acceptance, and comfort. And these things are not supposed to be there just for a little bit, just temporarily. They're supposed to be there permanently. And I grew up in a home where these things were not there. Like these values were not seen. We could not feel them. It was for me. My home was a place of, most of the time, toxicity and brokenness, and not comfort, not healing, not acceptance. I never felt valued, or anything like that. Mostly because it was a very dysfunctional family. I grew up in a place where I experienced, or I witnessed violence. For the first time of my life, I witnessed violence at home. I got my first part of brokenness from my home, the place that was supposed to nurture me to be this person. And zooming down to the family unit, like my mother, my father. I do in my story in Beyond Broken, I do tell of how wonderful my mother was as a person, but she wasn't always there. So there was always that, how I wish she was always around, because whenever she's around, back from work, because she was working away from home. So whenever she was back from work, I would feel that sense of comfort, that sense of healing, that sense of belonging, because she was around. She's the person who would affirm me. She's the person who would tell me that I looked beautiful. She's the person that made me feel seen and heard. But her presence compared to her absence was her absence was greater than her presence. And the people that I spend most of my time with are the people that were hell bent on breaking me. So I grew up in such a home. So, and then I always say that when I've had conversations with people, that we come from such brokenness, and then we're expected to be functional adults. We're expected to be functional parents, parents that are doing better than our mothers. But how? How, when we are coming from such a background? You're coming from a place of brokenness, and then you are expected to be functional and a good mother who raises their children. Okay, I'm gonna let D to chip in there.
Okay, I find it interesting. It's like I've come to learn something. Like, I'll give an example of my country. A good number of people rush to take their kids to school. By the way, homeschooling in my country is not so common. Okay, actually, I got to learn about homeschooling the time I came to South Africa 4 years ago. Yeah, I got to realize that it was a serious thing. And when I got back home, I tried to inquire. I was told it's actually provided for, but it's like most people don't do that. And partly the reason is because mostly parents see schools as an easier way of finding somebody to take care of your child on your behalf.
Yeah.
Okay, so now as you are talking, I was just thinking, much as I want to. What is your mother's name? First name?
Millie. We call her Millie.
Yeah, Millie. Okay, so here's Millie with her children. Okay, let me work with the assumption that maybe, let's say, three of you in your family, and she probably thinks she gives in the best, love, care, and so on and so forth. But out of, like, maybe the in one day, probably she only shows up at 5, or maybe, for argument's sake, maybe at 6 p.m. But the rest of the time you're spending it with other people, and that's the biggest portion of your time. All right.
Yeah.
Now, just like you said, this time, that the larger portion of your time that you are spending away from mom, unfortunately, is not healthy. All right. So obviously, the real because remember, a human being is both social and biological. All right. When we are born, that's the biological aspect. Okay, you're born, that's biology, and so on and so forth. But as we begin to grow, to interact with different human beings, our relatives, our church mates, our friends, colleagues, and so on and so forth. That is what we call socialization. And
Mm-hmm.
socialization is what what is what changes a human being, or what turns a human being from just being a biological being into a social being. Now
Mm-hmm.
remember, we are who we are because of social constructs. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, like the way the self-image of a human being images comes as a result of the social interactions that we are exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what you're going to become as, yeah, whether you're this very confident person, you're this very ambitious person, you're this very assertive person, okay, has it has less to do with biology and more to do with sociology or your social interactions. Now
Yeah.
remember, much of your social time you spend it with toxic people, so to say, or much of your time is toxic. So
Yeah.
even as Millie is going to come knock off, whether it's at 6 p.m. or whatever, regardless of, or no matter how much she's going to try to show love to you, it will be like work done equals to zero. Because out of on average a day, a normal day starts around 8 hours, all right, or 8
Mm-hmm.
a.m. on average. Okay, argument's sake,
Yeah.
and then it ends would say it ends maybe somewhere maybe 8 p.m. because after 8 p.m. mostly people go to sleep, and so on and so forth. So how many hours are between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.?
12.
Okay, that's like 12. All right. Now
Mm.
in that 12-hour period, how many hours do you spend with a toxic environment? And remember, bear in mind that mostly these toxic people, whenever mom or dad comes, they usually begin to behave in a very kind way. They pretend and so on and so forth. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So she's away from home from 8 in the morning, and she's back home maybe at 6. So we're talking about 10 hours of toxicity, 10 hours of you not being comfortable, all right, and then 2 hours of love and whatever. And even that same love is divided because probably she has to check what is in the kitchen, she has to do this and
Yeah.
that. So you find that maybe if you are to really be fair, you discover that the real time that she gives to her children is 1 hour. So what I'm trying to say is, from what you've explained, clearly we are saying my submission would be there's almost no love there,
Yeah.
because 10 hours is full of toxicity. Okay. And there's only 1 hour of love or care, and you feel safe and you feel protected. All right.
Yeah.
So the other 10 will be, the other 10 is just too much. I mean, the 1 hour is too small for it to compensate for the other 10. In other words, holding all factors constant, if you grow up in such an environment, up to the time probably you become independent or become an adult, trust me, because remember, like we said at the beginning, that we are who we are because of our
Socialization. Yeah.
socialization is what makes us who we are. Okay, it means you are going to obviously not grow up emotionally healthy, socially healthy, and mentally you're not going to be healthy. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So as I was saying earlier, that which concurs to what you've just said, that you are growing up unhealthy, and if you're like me, you stumble upon parenting. That's how I would put it, because I don't remember sitting down and planning that, I'm gonna have children, and this is when I'm gonna have children, and this is how many they're gonna be. I just found myself a parent, and in finding myself a parent, I have my experience of not coming from a very nurturing environment, and also I already have my fears, and I have my what I see as limitations, in terms of loving this child and all that. One, I stumble upon being upon parenthood, and this parenthood is single parenthood. Like I find myself in this situation where, okay, who you are a mother and you have to do this thing alone, and I'm coming with all of this experience, and I'm coming with defense mechanism as well, to say I am going to do everything in my power to protect my child from experiencing some of the things that I've experienced. I'm going to do everything in my power to provide for my child a nurturing and loving environment and whatnot and whatnot. Obviously, this has its own challenges as well, because now I must still work. I cannot just resign from work and be like, I'm going to be 100% here for this child. I must still work. This child must still be fed. I must still be a social human being, like have friends and church and gym and whatever that's outside of living for this child. And at the same time, I still have this fear of, I don't want to fail my child. And then, whilst just I'm still trying to grasp the whole thing of motherhood, oops, there's a second child, and okay, my firstborn and secondborn are like 18 months apart. So that for me was very challenging. The first time I was diagnosed with depression, it looked like postnatal depression, and then I was fed
Postpartum depression.
yeah, postpartum, yes, postpartum depression. And I was evaluated. We found out that it was more than that. There were childhood traumas that were never dealt with, and whatever and whatever. And it was a major depressive episode. So now, in all of these challenges, I must still find a balance, find a way of being there for these children that didn't ask to be here, and still be Usia, who is fully present for herself first. So looking back in my experience, I feel like if honestly it was a matter of being aware of what I was going through and everything, and being aware of my challenges as a child and whatever, I should have first focused on my healing before getting children. But it didn't happen like that. So I found myself having children, having all of these issues that I have, and then I still have to mother these people. And not only mother them, but fully parent them, because there's no father present in their lives. And having to deal with all of this whilst having my own challenges, my own mental health challenges, my own social challenges and everything. How do we do this thing as single parents? I think, yeah, that's my question to you now as an expert in this. What is your advice to single parents? Because for me, yes, it seems like I'm doing it well now, but I can assure you that it's not as easy or as smooth as it looks to the outside world, and it has taken a whole lot of self-awareness and a whole lot of healing to get me to the point where I felt like, okay, it seems like it's no longer taking too much. There's a bit of balance, but there are still days where I feel like I'm losing my mind. Like, how am I expected to fully function in this mess? So yeah, what is your advice to parents, not just single parents, to parents, to balance their lives, whatever point at, and parenting? How do we find the balance? How do we find the time? How do we find the strength to heal ourselves first, and also concentrate on our children?
Okay, so maybe before I can give that view, I would like to probably ask you, Sia, in your case, what has been how have you done it yourself? Uh, yes, I'll be very gracious to give you my view, but I first of all want to hear how it's been done from your point of view, whether it's been a traditional approach, or whether it's you just use your common sense, or you struggled through and figured out what is workable eventually. How has it been?
It's been a struggle of finding out what works, for all of us. I have 3 children, different ages. I live with 2 teenagers and a grade 3 child. Their needs are different. Their demands are different, and even the way they love is different. Their love languages are different. So it's been a bit of trying this and that and finding what works. And as they grow, the challenges are also growing. These people now, you discover that, okay, they're not babies anymore. You can't just take decisions for them. Now you engage them, and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
for me, okay, single parenting has been divided into two parts, if I were to put it like that. There was the single parent before I ever got married. Then there was that
Okay.
little break from it because I was married for like 3 years. And then there was the single parenting after. Okay. So the single parenting before, it had different challenges compared to the single parenting after. Let me qualify my status, my statement. Before I got married, I only had two children, and they were very young. They were
Okay.
in kindergarten stage, about 5 years of age. And my mentality then was always on my knight in shining armor is coming. I'm gonna have a husband who's gonna help me in this parenting thing. So I was always on the expectation of this hero that's gonna come and save me in my situation. So I feel like I was half-hearted, if I were to put it like that. I was half-hearted in single parenting because I was always expecting this person who's going to come and marry me and be a father to my children and whatnot. And as a result, their father's involvement in their lives was little bit here and there. And it really didn't bother me because I knew that there was no future between us and all of that stuff. So I was single parenting, but looking forward to getting married. So when, and because of their age as well, the challenges were less because I didn't have issues with like discipline and whatever. I did whatever that worked for me. And because they were younger, they would listen and do whatever that I say must be done, because what else are they going to do? And because of their age, that was easier. Like, I'm going to spank you. If I'm spanking you, I'm going to talk to you. If I'm talking to you, I'm going to put you in the naughty corner or whatever, and it will work. So discipline was okay, children are children. You do what you want to do. Then I got married and exposed them to trauma, life of abuse and whatnot. And they were forced to mature faster than they would have if I had not exposed them to what I exposed them to. And now there was a third one as well. So the single parenting after marriage now, okay, the parenting during marriage had its own challenges. One, we had different parenting styles. Two, these were not his children. So there was always the question mark of, is he doing what he's doing because he's being a
They're not his
parent?
kids.
Or he's doing what he's doing because they are not his kids. So there was always the uncertainty and the doubt that comes with how we are both parenting. And so during my marriage, I always felt like I was not fully present as a parent, and my children know I've also apologized to them. I felt like I was unfair to them, in putting them in a situation where I could not even protect them from this person, because when I try to raise my voice and protect them from what I see as harsh discipline, it seems like I'm questioning his authority as a husband and a father, So there was always those challenges that came with, how do I best approach this? So my best part of parenting has been after marriage, because now I think when, like, after marriage, it was a breather. Sia, you are here. You are here, you have children, no one is coming to save you. Like, these are yours 100%. You're not going to look forward to you're not going to postpone parenting or whatever to a later time when you have a husband or whatever. These are your children. So for me, that's when now I feel like I took most of my best decisions as far as parenting is concerned, because it was like, girl, you are in this and you are in this alone, you better be a parent to your children. And now, because also of their age, at that time, it made it easier for me whenever it's appropriate to engage them, and all of that stuff. And as the more I took decisions, the more I felt confident in being a mother, in being a parent. And one of the best conversations I've had with my daughter, who's turning 16 soon, was when apparently a friend asked her, like, how is it to be raised by a single mother? And she was like, what do you mean? How is it? She's my parent. I don't see my mom as my single mother. I see her as my parent, and
Mm-hmm.
that's it. She's the parent that we have, and I can't compare it to anything. I can't compare it to being raised by two parents because I don't have that experience. So I don't know how to answer your question, but all I can tell you is that I'm confident in my mother being a parent, and for me, that still did, like, oh girl, you're doing this thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a bit of this and that, trial and error, get to a point where you have a system that works, and yeah, and we're here.
Okay. So now, in the interest of time, here's what I'm going to say. First of all, I like your point. The point that you gave earlier on, to say a good number of these challenges can actually be resolved if one prepared for them, well in advance. For example, one does not, for lack of a better term, does not rush into becoming a parent in the let's say outside marriage. Yeah, like you said, I want to borrow your words. Yeah, so those things can be taken care of. Of course, we encourage couple counseling. That is before marriage. Of course, some which helps assess whether you're even fit to become married. And one thing I've come to realize is that it's like, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because we as Africans, we are still getting there in terms of good number of these things. It's like there are a lot of things that we for a very long time have been doing in courts by mistake. You become a parent by mistake, you become married by mistake. It's like almost everything by mistake. So a good number of these things, if we could be doing them with plans, all right, you plan to get married, and then because you plan to get married, you get prepared for that by professionals, psychotherapists, marriage therapists, and so on and so forth. Even issues of becoming a parent, it's something that you must be prepared psychologically. Let professionals prepare you, and so on and so forth. But now, let me now address your issues, because now let's assume, or let's take it, one is already in that situation. They cannot go back. They cannot turn their hand of time backwards. Okay. I must admit, it's not easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park. One must understand that. That's number one. But things that can help you deal with this. Okay. Balancing between work and parenting, or balancing between parenting and other things that you need to do in a normal situation, is number one, it's important to work as a team with your children, no matter how young they may be. Okay. Work as a team with your children, and by that, what I mean is the communication between you and them must be very effective. Okay, imagine, let's say you're at work, you leave home. Let's say it's they may not be at school. They maybe, let's say, they closed. Okay, they closed, and then you're at work. Okay, to me, I don't think it's responsible for you as a parent to spend the whole day at work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then you just say, okay, there is Mary, my firstborn daughter, or maybe I have a maid who's taking care of my kids. I'll see them when I get home. No, I would advise, get to call them even whilst you're at work, even twice in the period you're at work. Okay, let them feel your presence even when you're away. All right, because remember. Anyway, I don't want to sound religious, but religion has taught us that, and I'm saying this practically, not in a very not in an assumptive way. But one thing we can all learn from religion is that you don't necessarily need to see something physically for it to have an impact in your life. How many of you have seen Jesus or God the Father? But when you look at the values that Jesus, the values that most of us live by, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Hindu, you discover that these are values that we live by conviction. And you imagine, okay, this is a God that is seeing me. I must not do this. I must behave in this way. I must, So, and how that has become a reality has been through effective communication. That communication comes through fellowship. Okay, we go to church, our temples, our mosques, or whatever we call our worship places. We pray. I believe almost all religions believe in prayer. Okay, now that is effective communication. God doesn't have to be where you are for His presence, for you to feel His presence. No, okay, but through those mediums of communication, we've ended up living a reality. We've ended up living a real life with the different deities that we believe in. So what I'm trying to say, it is irresponsible for a parent to go for work and then the whole day you've not talked to your child, and then you only talk in the morning and in the evening. Really? Because if even just a boyfriend, I think Sia, you agree with me, a boyfriend who you just chat with in the morning and in the evening, are you really going to feel him?
No.
So if you can't feel that boyfriend, how much more your kids?
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to have that effective communication. And I would even want to suggest that even if your child is at school, get their teacher's number. Take note of the date. The time that they break off, like for break. I don't know in your country how it is, but in my country, most schools break time is 9:40 or 10 hours. Okay, pick up your phone quickly, call the class teacher, and just ask if, of course, you can have a prior agreement to say, can I be calling you every day at break, even just for 5 minutes? Okay, talk to your kids. Hi, how are you doing? How is it? How was your lesson? Have that. Keep in touch. All right, let them feel loved even when you're away. Okay, then when it comes to decision making, don't always tell them, say, oh, you're going to do this. No. Call them, however young they may be. This one is 5 years, this one is 7 years, one is you're talking about the one who is clocking 16 years. If possible, let them even know your income and say, okay, here's my income. So I want you to help me. Even if at the back of the mind you know to say they're too young to do this, but call them to help you make certain decisions with your money or with this and that. But just the mere fact that you're consulting them, even if what they are saying will not bind, but there's a way they're going to feel a part of the family.
That's true. That's true.
Are you following?
Yeah. I want to agree with you there. There's a time where I took that decision that, you know what, I am going to involve my children in my life, whichever way that I feel like empowered to do. So things like this one who's turning 16, when she turned 13, I started entrusting her with groceries for the month. I would give her money and say, go and do groceries. Write a grocery list, go to the supermarket and do groceries. And I'm a phone call away. Like, whenever you need me, call me. And I learned from her, actually, that some of the things that I was buying were even unnecessary. It's even stuff they don't like. Because now I put them in charge of buying food for themselves, because it's their food. I eat whatever they eat. And I learned that, I could actually save on groceries, if I go with how she does this thing, And my grocery bill started becoming lesser and lesser. Whenever I would ask her to go do groceries, I would ask somebody else a bit older than her to accompany her, and then they would come back with groceries for the month and have some change. I remember the first time the change was 400 rand. I was like, "Whoo, this is a lot. Are you sure you didn't miss anything?" I was like, "No, I bought everything." We went through the list. Everything was there, and I had.
They were more disciplined than the mother.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is nice, Another thing which I have learned in my parenting, because I have a very busy schedule. Sometimes we honestly don't have enough time to spend together. Also, the fact that I have more than one child, it's impossible to spend adequate time with each one of them, because we always, as a group, there's always the four of us. We eat together, we play together. Sometimes we play card games. Sometimes we're watching a movie or whatever. I introduced a parent-child date in my home. So
I was about to come to that, actually.
Yes, go out with one. We go spend time doing whatever that they like. We can go window shopping, or we can go out for coffee or a meal or whatever. we use that time to catch up with each other's life. What is going on in your life? How are you? What's that situation? Is that friend of yours? And whatever and whatever. We try. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. You can honestly just go to a walk. Like, I know my little one loves park runs and being in the park. We just take a walk to the park. We play on the swings. He tells me about his frustration with the desk mate at school and whatever. We use that. So it's very, what I'm supporting what we are saying, that be present, and a lot of comments that have come through here are talking to that be present. Even if you're absent, let them feel your love, let them feel your presence, even if you're not there. We have a scheduled family time, like we do devotion together after we've eaten supper and whatnot. So we have that stuff like that helps us to connect with each other, and in a relaxed and rushed manner, because in the morning you wake up, it's everybody, yeah, get ready, when did you polish your shoes, it's crazy. And then in the afternoon, the minute they come back, we have to look at homework and whatever. We never like have time where we are relaxed. So we try and create that environment where everybody's relaxed. We're off our phones, we're just talking to each other, we pray together and whatnot before we sleep. So it's very important for their development as well, and to get to know what's going on in their lives. Okay, before I come back to you, there was a comment here. Let me show it on the screen from Ubuli, and she says, now you find that all the financial responsibility falls on you as a single parent. Now, as much as you're already unavailable most of the time, but now you need a side hustle or a part-time job to be able to put food on the table, making you even more unavailable. Unfortunately, that's the reality of most single parents, including me. Salary is not enough, and I have 3 of them. That's a lot of kids for one person. So I have to hustle. I have to find myself doing side things and whatnot, which reduces the time that we spend together. But for me, thank God for COVID, because since lockdown, I've been working from home, which has made me to be more available to my children. Like when the last born, he comes back first from school. When he comes back from school, I have moment of spending time with him before the brother and sister come back from school, because I'm home. I work from home. If I'm not in a meeting and I say like I can postpone whatever I'm busy with, we have that catch up, quickly before others join us and whatever. So for me, that has worked. But I know this is not everybody's privilege, the one of working from home. Reality of most of us, we go to work in the morning and come back in the evening. But in that time, as Dee was saying, try to maximize your presence. Keep in touch, call, send a message, video call, make them feel your presence. Unox says she thought that since her children are older, she thought they need space. They needed space.
Interesting.
I get you, girl. I get you. All right, back to you, my friend.
Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is focusing on quality time together. Yeah. So one of the ways you can compensate, you were talking about your mother who would, just show up later in the day, and that you spent much of your time with toxic people, toxic environment, and so on and so forth. So that nice, or let me say, quality time that you give your children after work, we have, you and I have concluded that it's not enough. So another way of compensating for that is deliberately creating quality time, for your children. Let's say, what we can talk about, for example, like Christmas outing. Okay, it can be a weekend, or it can be, like that. It's all about what's workable. When we talk about outings, sometimes people who may not really who may not afford, will start thinking we're only addressing the rich. But we're talking about what's doable for you. And just like Sia was saying, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be, an expensive date or outing. I'll give you an example. I don't know about you, our friends in South Africa, but in my country, some time back, and I've noticed that this culture is slowly getting eroded away. But some time back, what used to happen is during school holidays, our parents used to take us to our villages. And while there would, head animals together, or some of us who come from regions that are into fishing would go fishing together, would go hunting together, would go. Now, just that part where you go together with your parents to the village, your mom, dad is part of the outing, and while you're there, things are happening like that. So that's quality time. Okay,
Yeah.
focusing on quality. So you find that it will be maybe for a week or a month or whatever period that is going to you're going to spend there. In as much as it may not be enough, but at least trust me, it's going to go a long way.
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to go a long way, and that is how a good number of us even learned our mother tongues, because you find that you're born in a region where in another region. For example, I come from the northern. Originally, I come from the northern part of Zambia, but I was born and raised in the southern part, where the language is different. But how we got to learn some of these cultures was because once in a while our parents would take us there. So I'm just giving an example of different options. But my point is, create time for that. Apart from that, even weekends. Okay, I
Yeah.
know in Africa generally, I'm working with the assumption that our biggest audience are Africans. But in Africa generally, I know most people are religious, whether you're Muslim or Hindu or Christian, but we are religious. So use those days that you go to church or whatever you call your religious gathering. Use that time, use that day. For example, I go to church on Saturday. I belong to a religious to a church that worships on Saturday. And so one thing I've learned is that the afternoons can actually be used to, spend time with family. Okay, you got some
True.
place, whether it's a nature, it's a park. Okay, I I remember there was a time that for me every afternoon I used to go for Bible study. Okay, I used to go
Mm.
for Bible study. So one time I visited a certain pastor. Um, you know, uh, yeah, I visited a certain pastor, and what shocked me was that he was at home, seated with his wife and the daughters there. And I was wondering, I was like, so I asked him the question, say, Pastor, are we not going for Bible study? He says, no, 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 we don't go for Bible study. Say, and I said,
We relax.
so you don't go for Bible study. So in my mind, I'm like, are you not, are you not breaking the Sabbath or something like that? But then with time I got to understand. With time I got to understand his point, and these are people who are ever apart. He's working. His wife is a
Mm.
teacher, and the children are at school, and so on and so forth. So Saturday and maybe Sunday, those are the few days that they get to spend time together. So my point is, find ways of compensating for the lost time uh, by
Mm.
not by not keeping yourself too busy, even on days that you could spare for your kids. Then I would like to say it's important to also get support.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like you are saying, you're too busy. Eh? Get support. Now, the
Mm.
support can be insourced or outsourced.
Mhm.
Now, let me talk about first insourcing. So the way
Yeah.
a good example is here. You've got a kid who's 16 years or who's turning 16. To me,
Mm.
that's already a deputy parent. Or even if they're 10 years. Okay,
Mhm.
it's important for a parent at least to invest a lot in their first child, because there is a reason why actually people call firstborns as deputy parents. Okay,
Mm.
invest a lot in them so that um, at the end of the day, when you are away, they are able to play parental, responsibilities. Of course,
Mhm.
how you can train or how you can help, how you can groom a child, the firstborn into a deputy parent is a topic for another day. But at least invest a lot in that one. And those in most cases can be helpful, like you
Yeah.
delegate responsibilities to them, because obviously every home needs a leader. When
Mhm.
you're away, the people who he or she is the person who takes up that responsibility. So that's insourcing. Then
Mm.
outsourcing
Mm.
comes in different ways. Outsourcing can come in form of maybe a maid, maybe a brother, a sister, and so on and so forth, or child counselors. Okay,
Mm.
child counselors who can be maybe seeing your children over the weekend. And also the other thing I should make mention is most parents underestimate, Okay, the 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 capacity that teachers play. I mean, the
Yes, yes.
capacity, the role that teachers play in the upbringing of their children. Okay,
Mm,
just a minute here.
okay.
Uh, okay, yeah, most parents uh, they underrate and let me say underestimate the role that teachers play or are able to play in the lives of their children. Are you able to see me here?
Yeah, I can see you. You sound clear, and
Uh,
your sound is clear, and you are visible.
okay, I was just having some things disturbing my screen,
Okay.
some pop-ups disturbing my screen. Yeah, so I was saying most parents underestimate the influence teachers play in the lives of their children, which is very
Mm,
unfortunate.
mm.
Remember, teachers spend most of they spend
Now it's gone. Okay, I'm gonna try and bring D back. Let me try and get him on WhatsApp. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. But yeah, hopefully he will be able to conclude that point before we go to the next one. I'm trying to get him. Okay, I hope he will be able to join soon. But yeah, um so guys, honestly, how we sorry, how we handle the parenting, honestly, it's in our hands. If I were to put it like that, it's in our hands. We have to maximize the time. We have to. Oh, there he is. He's back. We lost you there.
yeah. I was having some technical challenge.
Okay, all
Okay, are you
right.
able to hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, but okay, thank you. So I was saying we usually underestimate and underplay the influence that parents, I mean teachers have on our children or on children.
Mm,
Remember,
mm, mm,
teachers spend much of the time with your children than you do yourself. Okay,
mm, mm.
especially for those parents with children who knock off at 4 p.m., at 3 p.m. Their teachers spend more time in with them than you. Actually, they are by default more of parents than you. Now,
Yeah,
imagine what kind of assistant parent are the teachers of your children to your children.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
now let me say this because I've been a teacher before. I've taught before in two schools, and I've also been a chaplain, an assistant chaplain in another school. So
Mhm.
I've an experience with schools, three experiences with schools. One of the
Mm,
challenges that most teachers face, especially in African countries or African environment, is they're not so motivated because their
mm.
salaries are not so good. So you
Yep.
find that here is a teacher who's handling 40 students, 40 pupils, and then at the same time, that teacher is expected to be kind, to be patient with all these kids, and
Ish.
mostly these kids are problematic. Okay,
Yep.
um, it's not easy because you're dealing with a teacher who also is human. Apart from that, he's not even motivated because the salary is very low. You understand?
Mm,
So now,
mm,
as a teacher, don't say, we do pay a lot of money to the school, so I expect this teacher to just do her job or to do his job. No,
mm.
you are over demanding. So what you do now, it's upon you as a teacher, have a personal relationship with the it's upon you as a
With the
parent, have a
parent. Yeah.
personal relationship with the teacher. I remember
Yeah.
the time I was teaching, the time I joined the first school that I taught at. I was a bit rough, okay, and of course, I don't really encourage being rough, but I think being the first time, my first experience, I was a bit rough. Now, my
Mm,
roughness made my students to stop being lazy, because for
yeah.
me, if I give you work, you must do it. if it's classwork, you must do it in class. If it's homework, the first thing before you start learning, I would check out the books. So it so
Mm.
happened that some pupils started fearing coming to school, and others they improved. So for those
Mm.
who started fearing coming to school, their parents started coming to complain to the principal. No, this new teacher is making my child to fear to come to school. Is too is too tough. You understand? Now, when that complaint came, I felt discouraged because me, I knew I was doing that. It was in the best interest of the pupils. Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
then um, when I became disappointed and I became a bit quite soft. Let me put it that way. And when I became quite
mm,
soft, for those pupils who had improved as a result of my toughness, their parents became furious. They started coming also to the principal. This new teacher that you brought, when he came the first 1 month plus, he was very good. Our children had started improving, but now he's becoming soft. What's happening? So you see, two different parents, two different
yeah,
parents. One does not like my toughness, one likes my toughness. So you know what I
yeah.
told myself? I told myself, for those parents who like like my toughness, I'm going to be tough only on their children. For those who want me to be soft on their children, I'll be soft, and they'll both reap what they are sowing. Are you seeing what I'm trying to
So,
say? So my point is, at the end of the term, what I noticed is the kids that I was tough on and the parents, I mean the kids that whose parents had a rapport with, okay, were doing fine. Now, um, uh, building a relationship with a teacher can also mean you need to motivate them once in a while. I know some parents may feel it's a burden, but it's important. Once in a while, maybe give them something. Okay, here's something for airtime. Here's something, just something like that. But the most important thing is build some form of relationship with them. Let them understand the kind of child you have,
yeah,
and then so that they'll know how to relate with them, because those can play a very big role in helping you as a parent. Okay,
that's
I
true.
remember. Imagine a teacher who always says,
Okay.
Sia, I was talking to your mom. She told me this about you. Okay.
Mm.
She calls you by name and she tells you, your mom, this and that, me and them, we chat, this and that. There's a way it feels. So it feels like
Yes,
in the absence of my mom, this is my mom or this is my dad. Okay.
that's
So
true.
in short, ask for help, and I've stated the key stakeholders in helping are teachers, the maid. And by the way, when we're talking about the maid, also be careful because sometimes these maids can, they can mislead your children. But I would leave it up to your wisdom to decipher this and that. But those are the key stakeholders in giving a single parent help.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I want to concur with you. Okay, I want us to. I please close the door. Sorry, sorry about that. I want to concur with you here before we move to the next point. Um, for an example, okay, my children are totally different from each other, and that's one of the things that are giving me gray hair as their mother because they are so different from each other. It's
Uh-huh.
I think the first one of my first mistakes as a parent was to expect them to be the same and to expect what I get from the firstborn to be what I get from all of them. And I got a very
Mhm.
rude awakening there that look, this you are dealing with three totally different people here that happen to be all yours. So my last born is a person who takes his time on everything, very slow. He takes his time, and it took me a while to understand him because I'm that person who's like, here, like rush rush, let's do this, let's finish, and then I get this person who
Mhm.
cries, like literally cries when you try to rush him to do anything. He gets so frustrated, you'll be screaming, I was still talking and then you interrupted me. I was saying, and and then sometimes I would finish the sentences of me like, you were saying, so you were saying this, and then he would be like, no, I was still talking, mama. And then he will talk. So I had to a point
Mhm.
when I started grade one, the teacher called me and told
Mhm.
me that look, this boy is bright. He's doing very
Mhm.
well, he's passing very well, but the problem is he's very slow. Like he takes his time. But you will be assured that when he finishes, the work will be correct, all of it. He would have just taken extra 30 minutes than everybody else or whatever, but he would be like 100%. So I took it upon me to follow up on every teacher that meets him, to say, this is the situation. Don't be surprised. So even the current, he's in grade 3 now. Even the current teacher, whenever she feels like now it's getting too much, she would call me and be like, hey, mama, is there something that's not going well at home? Like, no, why? It's no. We know the situation here, but now I'm picking up certain attitude as well. At first he would be nice about it, like it'd be slow, but he would communicate, he'd be nice about it. But now I'm picking a certain change of. So I just wanted to share. So we have that relationship that's ongoing. He would write me a note or call me or send me a text. I'll go to school, see her, we talk. So I wanted to agree with you that all stakeholders must be involved. Okay, the next point is the tantrums.
Okay,
Now,
the tantrums.
here's a comment on Facebook from Mimi. She says, can you also talk about deputy parenting? Because, wow. And she says, I'll give one example. This morning, I wanted to scream. Little man wanted to apply petroleum jelly and get dressed while in blankets. When I tried to be fair, it was war. Did that bunch of joy not come back from school all joyful, asking me, how was your day? So,
Is it okay if we can talk about deputy? Oh, you're still asking the question?
No, let's not. Okay, I think we've already touched on deputy parenting. Can we talk about the tantrums? How do we address these things? Because I had a friend who had a Facebook post earlier. I hope she's watching. She she was saying that the war every morning on taking a bath. It's like this person doesn't get used to getting into water. There has to be a war every morning on you need to bath and get ready for school. They are fighting. I still fight. My son, my last born is 8. We still fight every morning on how we are doing things. And we have had the same routine for years, but we still fight every day. This person just cries, throws everything around, and you're like, dude, why don't you get it? We have a routine. You do this thing every day. So how do we get around that as parents without losing our minds? Because I feel like I am close to losing my mind sometimes.
Okay. Okay. So maybe the person who is asking about deputy parenting, we should just be able to assure you that this is not the first and last. Though of course I'm not the owner of the show. Allow me to usurp your powers, Sia, by announcing. Yeah. So this is not the first and last program we are doing. I think we'll be able to tell you how regular we'll be doing this, but we are planning to probably be having it every week. But I think my boss, Sia, is going to give a proper direction. So on tantrums, it's important, number one, to understand and accept your child's anger. The problem with the adults, and this is what I would say, please get it clearly. The challenge with adults is you want to understand a child using your perception of an adult. That's a challenge we have. Okay. Yes. If at any point, if only you could just switch positions, okay, you become at that moment you become that child, and the child becomes an elderly person. Probably should have even been better. That child would even be better than me. In fact, sorry to say, allow me to say this: that in most cases, adults act childish. Our response towards children's anger, children's tantrums, honestly, is childish. Because honestly, do you know the reason why children sometimes get? Do you know that children get surprised by the way we react? Because in the mind of the child, remember, this is a child whose experience on Earth is just maybe 5 years or 3 years. Okay, yeah. So their exposure is not so much, and then when they maybe because remember, a tantrum or any expression of anger is simply how can I put it? Children, let me put it this way: children have got limited ways of expressing themselves, yes, and one of the common and the most healthy way is anger or maybe crying or tantrums, something like that. Okay, it's like I come to Johannesburg and I don't know how to speak Venda, and then this place is just Venda, people just speaking Venda, And then I try to use my language they can't understand. Okay. And, you know, how else am I supposed to probably express myself? Because I don't understand Venda. I can't speak Venda. So the only possible one probably is to maybe use sign language but my point is, children throwing tantrums, that is the language of a child. Okay, so number one, find out why your child is angry. Okay. Sometimes you find that maybe the solution is even simple. Let me give you a practical example. You find maybe a child could start throwing tantrums because they are jealous or frustrated, and you find that the solution to their jealousy is a simple thing. Maybe let's say another child has come, okay, and then you're trying to embrace that child, and then your child feels jealousy or is frustrated, and then begins to throw tantrums, and then instead of you offering the solution, or which the solution is just to probably put that other child down, as simple as that, but you overreact. Hey, why this and that? Honestly, your child actually will be very shocked. Like, is this a parent or it's So that's number one. Then number two, understand and accept your child's anger is what I had said number one, but that's number two. But here is why I'm saying understand your child's anger. We also get angry. That's the truth.
Yes.
And the only difference between us and kids is us, we express our anger in different ways. So you cannot tell me you're not you're not going to dictate how I should express my anger. No, especially if you are the source of my anger. Okay. Yeah. I remember there was a time when Sia were having a conversation with you on Life 101, where we talked about marital infidelity and all those things. And then there's a point you said, and I like that point. I've never forgotten that point, to say the person who abuses you or the person who inflicts pain on you should not dictate how you should feel or how long it takes for you to heal. No.
Yeah. Behavior.
So it's a similar thing with the child. Understand that that's their way of expressing it. You will not dictate how. Of course, with time, it's important to obviously teach them mechanisms of expressing their anger in a more healthy and respectable way. But it's important to understand that if you were to be put in their shoe, you could have probably reacted in a way that would even your child would even be better.
Yeah.
Okay. Then number three, find a distraction. Now, if you think your child is let's say starting a tantrum, find something to distract them with straight away. Okay. I'm saying this because this could be something you can see out of you can see. I'll give an example. As they are probably beginning to throw those tantrums, you could probably say, is that a cat? Okay. Of course, I'm not saying you start scaring them. Okay, but is that a cat? I'm hearing the sound of a dog. Is that a dog? In short, find something, be creative, something to distract them. Okay. As a mother, you must actually be a very good psychologist because basically you're playing on their mind. Okay. Find a distraction. All right. Find a distraction. Then it's not always necessary to interrupt your child's anger outbursts or them throwing tantrums. Sometimes it's important to wait for them to stop. Like let them express their anger enough. Remember, what you suppress that does not die.
True.
It is like a wound that you bandage. Okay, you bandage, and then soon or later it becomes septic. Yeah. Okay, so allow them to express themselves through that. Of course, I'm not saying always, but sometimes it's important. Just allow them to express themselves with that. Allow it. Just wait for it to stop. Okay, losing your temper or shouting back won't end the tantrum. I'm sure you can attest to that. Ignore the looks you get from people around you. Pardon?
It makes it worse when the minute you raise your voice, they want to outdo you.
Exactly. Now, the other thing that makes most parents want to immediately stop the tantrum
We're losing you, D. Okay, whilst we're trying to connect him back, um, uh, okay, he'll join back. But yeah, I wanted to concur with him to say, I always say, as parents, we always acting as if, sorry, as parents, we are always acting as if we were never children, as if we came from the sky as adults and were put here like we're Adam and Eve, and we were suddenly adults and we knew how to handle life. We forget that we were once children, and we forget that we were once in the stage that they are in. So the things that they find um frustrating and hurting and all of that, we once found them to be like that as well. There was a point in our lives where we couldn't handle our emotions the way that they can't handle their emotions. But as parents, we are always acting as if we were we just came to earth as adults. We were never children. We don't understand what they're going through. We don't understand their emotions and all of that stuff. So I'm getting empowered in your answer that, look, you were once a child. This person is just learning to express themselves, and they're not going to express as your 30 something year old self. They're going to express themselves as a 5-year old, as an 8-year old, as a whatever year old, and we should just be patient. For an example, okay, my children are totally different from each other, and that's what
I don't know whether we lost Sia, or it's me who's been lost. I'm trying to check using the other gadget. We are currently having a small technical problem, but request that you just be patient with us as we try to fix it.
Okay. Oh,
Oh my goodness.
so sorry. So sorry. Load shedding happened, and yeah, I was disconnected. I was trying to rejoin using the phone because it's got data, and it was refusing to allow me back. So I've tried to hotspot myself and be here. Whew, all right. Okay. Someone had a comment there. Let's just quickly go through that. Sorry. Noxa says, thank you so much. Just made my second call for the day to my tribe. It made a difference. Thank you guys. God bless you. I'll try by all means. I'll by all means try my best. My presence will be felt more in my absence. Yes, good girl. You're learning. Okay, I'm not sure. Now I'm back and then we've lost D. Hey guys, I'm sorry. But anyway, okay, let's see if we can get him back. If we fail, we might have to just call it a day right about here. And the plan, okay, as he was saying earlier, that I'm so sorry, like I'm disturbed now. This whole thing disturbed me, but I'm trying to be here once again. Okay, Pemi says, I needed this. It's hectic. Was hey guys, it's hectic or single parenting. But yeah, I liked before I go to the closing and the announcements and whatever, I just want before I got cut off, I was saying I like what Dee was saying, that we have to understand that children are children. A 5-year-old is not going to express himself like a 17-year-old. or a 15-year-old, he will express himself like a 5-year-old. So you have to, as a parent, you have to calm yourself down and get to their level and understand them at their level, and try to distract them if you can, and all of that stuff. So it's very important to understand them as children, and not as adults, and not expect them to act as adults. Okay, so Dee was saying earlier that the plan is to have these conversations on a weekly basis. I'll announce in time whenever we're going to have one. We will cover different topics and several topics, and there's a big spectrum of topics that we can talk about. Even parenting, we cannot exhaust it. It's a lot on its own. Today we just touched on two parts, of parenting from trauma, and being expected to be a good parent to your children, and balancing the single parenting and your whole life. And we also touched a little bit on handling tantrums. So we will have a follow-up conversation on this, and on parenting, that is, and maybe another 2 or 3 more conversations on parenting before we move on to another topic. But for today, let's call it a day. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate all of you, all the comments, even the ones that I didn't show on the screen or read. Know that I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And we shall be talking more on in conversations that are inspiring, conversations that are life-changing, conversations that keep us going, real conversations like this, because that's who we are. We want to be real, we want to be inspiring, we want to be special, and we want to move on with life. So yeah, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I shall call it a night. I'm going to end the broadcast now. Thank you so much.